Hey, my name's Tintin. I was Ali Abdaal's YouTube producer, and I helped grow his channel from 3 to 6 million subscribers.
Hey, my name is Saf. I was Ali's lead video editor and head of creative, and the videos that we created together went on to do tens of millions of views.
Hey, my name's Angus. I'm Ali's GM/COO, and I've been with him for 6 years, and together we've done over $25 million.
And today we have the ultimate blueprint for building a profitable educational YouTube channel. Strategy, production, team, and products from 3 people who actually did it for Ali Abdaal, one of the top educational YouTubers on the planet.
I think I've probably done every single role within the business. I started as a researcher, and then was a writer, then was an editor, then was like YouTube producer, all in the space of like 2 months in 2020.
What is your guys' framework on when to kill something?
When Ali's tired of it.
So I think with some of them, we haven't been that intentional. And that's ended up costing us a lot.
Millions.
The biggest mistake I see creators make when they're starting on YouTube is jumping to that niche question before they've actually asked why they're doing it.
I ask this question to people all the time. Do you want to get rich or do you want to get famous? The first thing they always say is both. They just sigh, they look off into the distance and they go, fortune. Like 99% of the time.
I've not met anyone who's like happy with that reality where they have a big channel but aren't making very much money.
I recently met a guy, a short form creator with literally over 1 million subscribers. And he was like, I stress about rent because I just can't monetize this. Saf, I feel like you're really big into the metrics. Metrics or no metrics?
Metrics is the thing I check when I get out of bed in the morning in YouTube Studio. It's the thing I check when I'm at work. It's the thing I check before I go to sleep.
I think the answers to you growing your channel are not in YouTube Studio at all. The view count on your videos that you've got, which everyone can see, is the main data you need.
Tintin, why did you leave the Ali Abdaal team?
It was the best job. It really was the best job, at least for me. But then...
So Tintin, you were Ali Abdaal's YouTube producer for 2.5 years. While you were there, the channel went from 3 to 6 million subscribers and generated over $10 million. So for someone who has no idea who you are, what exactly did you do for Ali?
Nice. Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. I was there for 2.5 years. And for most of that time, I was running the channel, the production system. So that means helping Ali with ideas, coming up with titles. For a while, I did the thumbnails myself. And then kind of outsourced them to a thumbnail designer, worked with them, and occasionally did a bit of scripting, worked with script writers, worked with the video editors and sponsors with Angus, which was at times fun, at times frustrating. And yeah, just kind of like made sure we posted videos consistently, like oversaw the content calendar when videos were actually going out and made sure we actually produced them and that Ali wanted to make them and they did well and all that kind of stuff.
So Tintin, it sounds like you basically owned the channel operations kind of end to end. So ideation, scripting, title and thumbnail / packaging, and then posting schedule kind of end to end. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, Ali really encouraged this like CEO of your area of the business. So if it was like you're in charge of emails or you're in charge of his podcast, you're in charge of the book, he would encourage this like CEO mindset where you really owned like the thing that you did. So that mine was the YouTube channel. And obviously Ali was like extremely involved in it, and I would speak to Ali all the time. Like he was the one really leading the channel and like actually setting the real vision and strategy and everything. But it was my responsibility to actually make videos go live on the channel, like actually get them done and say, Ali, we need you for filming on Wednesday, or do like preparation meetings with him around like what we're going to film and all that kind of stuff. So like actually being responsible for the content going out on the channel and like the overall production of it.
No, so you were the one who clicked schedule and publish on the channel.
Yeah, publish more often than I'd like to admit. Yeah, ideally, obviously, you schedule videos for sometime in the future, but I often hit publish because it was like so last minute. But yeah, that was pretty much the overall process.
Nice. So Saf, you were Ali's head of creative, and the videos that you produced there have done tens of million views. And now entrepreneurs pay you to do the same for them. So what does head of creative mean day to day?
Yeah, so when I joined the Ali Abdaal team, I joined as a video editor. And so I was editing the videos from day one. But a bit of a fun fact that people don't know is that before I joined the team as a video editor, I had never worked as a video editor before. And Angus had actually put out a job application for a trial task for a video editor. And he was like, we don't care about your portfolio. We just care like about the work you produce. And so it was a book review that was part of this trial task, and I edited it the best way that I could. And having watched Ali's content for years and years and years, I was able to make creative decisions that I knew he would like better than he knew himself, because I could articulate it in a way, given my background was video editing a long time ago. So when I joined the team, I was video editing, but that was for a very short amount of time. I'd say a couple of months. And then I took a path to being the head of video and head of all of the content that go out on the YouTube channel. And then we decided to ramp things up. And so that meant short form stuff that go out for book promo. It was sometimes podcast stuff or other shorts that go out on the YouTube channel themselves. So that meant learning to hire video editors, train them up, tone of voice, creative decisions, review protocols, and just really bringing together the vision that Tintin would come up with for the strategy and making sure that it met the execution standard that we would expect for what I believe to be like one of the best educational channels on YouTube.
So when you left Ali Abdaal's team, I guess, what kind of role were you in at that point and what did you do day to day?
So when I left the team, I took a very different role and I was sort of like a sales and marketing lead at that time. It's because the journey started as a video editor. It ended up with the creative director, but the business needs had changed at that time. And in a previous life, I worked as a sales and marketing RevOps person at a startup, and that was the direction which the business needed. But bringing that thread together, video, creative, YouTube, sales and marketing, I ended up starting my own business, helping entrepreneurs like Ali to produce their own YouTube channels from scratch and take it from hopefully 0 to their first 100K subscribers and beyond.
Who are some of the entrepreneurs you work with?
Daniel Priestley is probably our flagship case study who we've worked with. We did 0 to 100K with him in like 100 days. Maybe not 100 days, like 5 months. And then Ryan Dice is another guy who we worked with. Chris Donnelly is another entrepreneur who we've worked with. Vishen Lakiani, who's the CEO of Mind Valley, is another entrepreneur who we've worked with. Lots of thought leaders in and around the entrepreneurship space.
Nice. And Angus, I mean, you run the whole machine even today, GM and COO. So what are you actually responsible for?
I tend to say basically everything that's not the creative side. So Ali is in charge of like producing videos, product development stuff, and then everything else kind of falls on me to keep running, essentially. So management, finances, operations, all of that stuff, really.
And did you start as a GM or did you kind of pivot?
I think I've probably done every single role within the business, which I guess is a good thing for a GM. But yeah, no, I started as a researcher and then was a writer, then was an editor, then was like YouTube producer, all in the space of like 2 months in 2020. So I cold emailed Ali in January 2020, asking whether he needed help with his scripts, because at the time he was making 3 videos a week and he was still working as a doctor. And he did. And so I started doing like 2 days a week. And then it very quickly went up to full time, which, you know, with other world events going on, it's very convenient to have a full time job at that point. Taught myself how to edit in April and kind of took over kind of, I guess, managing the channel from Ali himself in that around that sort of time as well. And yeah, and then from January 2021 onwards, we started to hire more people, and the team's kind of always been between like 10 and 20 people ever since then.
All of you guys have talked about with your experience with Ali, your roles have constantly changed.
Yeah.
So maybe Angus would be the person to answer this. Why is that the case? Because I feel like in most companies, you pick a certain role, you stay in your lane, and you maybe get promoted, but you don't just jump around as much.
I think because it's always been relatively small, like even when we had sort of 20 people, when you're at that size or smaller, you kind of need to wear multiple hats, and you can't really operate from a mindset of this is my job, I can only do this thing, I'm not allowed to do anything else, and or I don't want to do anything else, because it doesn't really fly. Like you need to be able to help out with various things. Like I remember when we discovered that Saf knew about HubSpot on a team retreat, and so that was like, oh, Saf, he can help with sales and marketing then. And so like it's just more fluid, I guess. Some people describe it as like a startup, but it's not. It kind of is, kind of isn't. But yeah, it's just the needs of the business when you are that size mean that you need to kind of sit in 3 or 4 different roles, and it's not sort of, we could hire for every single seat, but then margins would be a lot slimmer, and it would be a very different environment, I think, to work in.
I guess I did 2 roles for a bit, yeah. And I started as like a writer. When I joined, there was this idea that producing a Skillshare course every 3 months was going to be the thing that was going to grow the business. And that very quickly became not the goal. And I was like writing these Skillshare courses. That was like, I wrote like a Notion one, and then we wrote like a couple others around like how to produce a podcast and how to, there was even one where Ali wanted to make a course on Skillshare about how to read a book, which was like, there was this, I can't remember the name of the book the book, there is a book called How to Read a Book. And it's like how to properly go through a book and like digest everything, remember everything, all this kind of stuff. And Ali was quite into it at the time. And so I wrote this course about like how to read a book, which was,
Tell us.
yeah, Ali was like, you know, you read the contents first, and then you like gonna get all this kind of stuff. It's just like, what?
So you read the title and then the author.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. It was, you know, that was like, I remember having this conversation in this house, yeah, about all of that. and I was like, at the time, I was like really into it. I was like, yeah, 100%. This makes a lot of sense. Anyway, I was also working on like the Creatorpreneur brand, which was a thing at the time, with one other guy called Gareth. And then actually Daniel Priestley came and did Ali kind of he'd interviewed him on the podcast and wanted to get Daniel's help on his business. And so we did like a day with Daniel Priestley. We actually did an afternoon and then a day like the following week, where Dan was basically like, this is kind of what I think you should do in the business. And that was super, super interesting. I remember that day like super well, and just learning so much about the business and about how businesses work. And he was basically like, scrap Creatorpreneur and go all in on the part-time YouTube Academy, which meant that me and Gareth's thing was kind of like no longer a thing. And so I was moved from the writing role to the YouTube channel, because at the time Ali had really no help. Just it was him and like a video editor for like a few months there. And Ali was like, I think I need more help on the YouTube channel, and Tintin could be a good fit to help, given that he like makes videos and can learn the relevant skills or whatever. So you just kind of do whatever it takes to like help out, grow the business, do whatever's needed, especially in the early days when you're like just figuring out what you want to do and how you can help. And yeah.
Something you mentioned is the Creatorpreneur brand grew and then was killed. Something I've also noticed, again, as a complete outsider, is that you guys pivot a lot, like from different products that are like started and then...
What do you mean?
People notice that? It's like...
So tell me more about that. Maybe Angus, you're the right person to discuss here. Like, do you feel like pivoting is kind of part of the strategy, or I guess why does it happen?
I think if I was being critical, I think we have pivoted too much over the past like 5 years and often chased stuff that we didn't need to. The whole shiny object syndrome thing, and I think we've got better at that over time. But if we look back at like the last 5 years, the product that has the income stream that's consistently been the highest every single year from 2020 till 2025 is like PTYA, and that's been like the core thing throughout time. And at various times we have tried Creatorpreneur. We produced a course on that. It didn't really work. We've tried various different physical product stuff. And I think it's just like, when these things seem interesting, seem obvious to do, it makes sense in the moment. But then you realize in hindsight, and this is all kind of just, I think, learning as an entrepreneur, and Ali has done over the past like few years, and we've learned, is just focus is so important. And Hormozy talks about it all the time. It's just like the one thing, like what is the one thing that you should be doing and saying yes to, and ignoring everything else, because everything else is a distraction. And I think like we have definitely got better at even doing that on a micro level of, finding out what the bottleneck is in a particular instance and solving that, and only that, rather than trying to chase multiple different products. The other thing that's always been on my mind over the last sort of 5 years has been trying to make sure that we are holding what I just said in kind of suspense for a minute, but like we are diversified enough so that we're not totally reliant on one product or on Ali. The whole idea of Creatorpreneur, and one of the other brands that we built off the back of that, the part-time Creatorpreneur Academy or whatever, was to try to create a brand, which we're now trying to do with Lifestyle Business Academy, that is somewhat diversified away from Ali and reliant on Ali and Ali's face, because key point of failure in a business, it's not easy to do that with a kind of creator-led business like we have, but that also speaks to some of the reasons we've tried to diversify into different things, because we want to make sure that there are revenue streams that aren't relying completely on Ali and have some kind of long-term potential and potential exit value. But like that's kind of less of a thing. It's more just like diversification. So that partly explains the pivoting, but part of it is too much shiny object syndrome, which, as I said, I think we've got better at, but yeah.
I feel like there are two approaches to entrepreneurship. I think one is have a lot of tiny experiments, like be spinning up new products all the time and then just kill them fast. Like spin up a small product, test it in the market. If there's signals, double down. If not, just kill it really quick and spin something else up. Have multiple kind of streams of income so you're diversified. Or the complete opposite, which is you can make anything work, but you can't make everything work. So just pick one thing, go all in, just keep pushing through, just have that one focus. But then, of course, you're not diversified. You have all reliance on that one thing. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about those two different approaches in Ali's business and then also in your own businesses?
I guess the thing is with the micro experiments, as long as they are, you go into them with the mindset they're an experiment. I think the mistake we maybe made was like, oh, this is a thing. We need to go all in on it, as well as going all in on the other experiment. Whereas if you actually treated it as an experiment, then I think that can make sense. But I think the more that we've grown over the past 4 or 5 years, the more I've realized that actually just focusing on one thing is ultimately going to move everything forward faster, and everything gets caught up in its wake. I think I'd probably go with that, the latter side of it.
Well, pick one thing.
Yeah, pick one
Because
thing.
anything can work.
Yeah, but I think I wouldn't want to suddenly change Ali's whole business to be focused on one income stream, if that makes sense. Like I think going in on, we're currently building out Lifestyle Business Academy, and going all in on that is good. But like in the back of my mind, I'm still like, okay, I want to make sure that sponsors continue to bring in like $1 million a year, just so we've got that baseline cash flow of different revenue streams. So that's kind of my attitude now. So it's less like experimental, but still wanting some element of diversification.
I still remember when we killed the Deep Dive podcast, and that came as like a complete like out of nowhere, and it was a very successful podcast. It'd been going for a number of years. It had like 500,000 subscribers, but it just wasn't part of the future vision for the company anymore. Even though there were sponsor slots and it had like real genuine value that was bringing to the business, it was no longer a focus, and there was a different focus, which was one of the various video ideas that we had at the time. So I think both those philosophies are true, and I think to some extent throughout the time with Ali, we've honored both of them, but definitely leaned more on the experimentation side of things, with quickly launching, spinning up a business idea, launching it to the newsletter to see how much interest that there is, spinning up like an MVP landing page, doing like a soft CTA in a YouTube video, for instance, and then seeing what the response is off the back of it. It's just that there are lots of very promising, shiny experiments you can run. It's just you have to follow through in those ideas. And sometimes it takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or longer than you can anticipate. And then you don't actually know what the outcome of the experiment is before you've pivoted to the next thing.
But I think you've got to be intentional about them, because I think with some of them we haven't been that intentional, and that has cost us. Like most obviously with like the keyboards, we could have done way more research on that, and that's ended up costing us a lot.
There's millions.
Yeah. Not quite that much. But like I think if you're doing it intentionally, then yes, I think it makes sense. I don't think all of our experiments have been intentional in the past. I think they are moving forward.
I don't think it's good to think that anything can work. That whole philosophy of like anything can work, just like make it work kind of thing. Because I feel like if you were going to try and make money on Skillshare kind of thing, like that, it probably won't work. There's maybe a way to make it work, but I feel like part of making something work is you're a big part of it. And so if it's just not worth it, or there's too much effort required, it's just not fun, like, or you have to like, you are part of the system. So I feel like that you have to kind of include that as a factor. And I feel like trying to make something work that isn't a good idea, or isn't like that easy, isn't a good way to think about it. I think tiny experiments personally, and follow, like, it's just a better way of, because you're trying to find something that people actually want. And so if you're running tiny experiments, you're getting signals to different places, then doubling down. Like that's ultimately what Ali did. That was Ali's journey. It's always been his journey, really. It's like trying things, like starting a YouTube channel, it works, like double down on it for a bit, testing out the part-time YouTube Academy, like small experiment, doubling down on that. Then all of these different things that he's tried is like always run these different experiments, and things have worked or things haven't worked. And I feel like that is the journey of entrepreneurship. I feel like trying to force things to work that don't.
How do you see your new school community, your free one? Is that an experiment?
That's an experiment, yeah. Yeah, I still see the whole business, to be honest, as an experiment. At least I'd convince myself of that to make myself feel better about the whole thing, and just like not just feel like this is what I'm doing forever kind of thing. But the free school group is like, I have this bottleneck in my business around like getting enough applications to the program, or I want to get more. And so I was like, maybe this would help, and I can just close it. I can just stop it in 3 months, 6 months, a year if it isn't working, or I feel like I've got the conclusion of the experiment is that this is not the most efficient way to solve this bottleneck kind of thing. Yeah.
So it sounds like quitting/killing products, services, like certain offerings you guys have, is also an interesting part of this. I mean, Angus, I'm sure you have like the most deep kind of perspective on this here. Like you mentioned the Deep Dive podcast was killed a few years ago. I heard like an audible sigh in the room.
Or Amber. she ran the podcast.
And then PTYX, I think, was something that was also shut down at some point. So tell me, like, what is your guys' framework on when to kill something?
It's a good question.
When Ali's tired of it.
Well, yeah, there's a point I was going to make. Like, I think a lot of people talk about like product market fit, and there's not a lot of talk about like product founder fit. And I think with Ali, he needs to find it energizing for it to be worth it, especially with something that's so, podcast being a good example, something that's so front facing. If the person running it is not energized by it, it's so obvious. And it's so obvious even in YouTube videos when Ali's been less energized by a particular video, like the audience can tell. And so as much as I don't like the fact we cancelled Deep Dive, because I did think it was an incredible asset, and we wouldn't have met Daniel Priestley if it wasn't for the podcast and a number of other entrepreneurs and stuff. I didn't want to force something that's not actively going to energize Ali. So like part of it is like the founder creator fit. But then part of it is also just like from a financial perspective, P2AX, it kind of just wasn't operating at the margins we wanted it to be. And at the time we were sort of in a phase where we were trying to sort of consolidate things slightly, and it didn't make sense to be like, well, actually, let's just double down and hire closers and hire, more CSMs and stuff. And so it's just easier to remove it completely and simplify things. So there's not really like a solid framework, because I think it does depend. Because objectively, Deep Dive shouldn't have been shut down. If you're just looking at the finances and the growth rates and things like that, it wasn't plateauing. It was literally because Ali wasn't enjoying it, which is totally fair. But with P2AX, it was sort of like, well, we probably could have made that work. And in hindsight, looking at what we know now about high ticket stuff, yeah, we probably could have made it work. But at the time, it didn't really make sense with where the business was at. So there's contextual factors too. Yeah.
It sounds like you guys operate by creator energy fit versus like traditional product market fit.
I think that's important. It's like it's just so obvious when you're trying to force something. And I think that's the same with any creator, any platform, any personal brand. It sounds cliche, but like if it doesn't feel authentic, then people can tell, I think. And I think that's even more important now than it was like 5 years ago. So that's why I think we probably operate mostly off that as the core currency, I would say. Yeah.
Let's talk about energy and picking a niche. So let's say somebody watching this wants to start a YouTube channel, and a profitable YouTube channel. They have some kind of real expertise in the real world. So let's say engineering, finance, fitness, just some random kind of niche. And they want to start an educational channel this year. So decision one, of course, is what is a channel about? So how does someone pick a niche? Maybe Tintin has some thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, I guess if this person has expertise already, then it should be about that. Like if they have expertise in fitness, then just make videos about that, about fitness. Like I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I think a lot of people struggle with, a lot of people maybe in their like 20s, younger people are like, I don't really have a clear expertise or thing. And it's hard to, that was my challenge when I first started YouTube, was like, I don't really know what I'm making videos about. I'm just like kind of making videos about stuff I'm interested in, and it's not really a niche. But if you have like a clear thing that over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you've learned loads about, gained loads of experience in, just make videos about that. And I don't think, I feel like the best way to approach it is to look at some other channels in the space, see what they're doing in the early days, just like take some of their titles, like maybe spin them like to fit you a little bit, and just go from there. If you don't really know what your niche should be or like the exact positioning of the niche, I think the best advice is like imitate then innovate. So find people that you find inspiring, the channels that you like to look at, you like to watch, you think I kind of want to make videos like this or have a channel like this. And then through the process of making loads of videos, you refine your positioning and like the exact things that you're known for and that you want to kind of bring out in your content that makes you different from everyone else. And that's the kind of, I guess, beginner starting playbook that I think most people should follow, especially if you don't really know how to make videos or you're not getting like a production team to make the videos for you and make it really good. Like what Saf does for people who have never made videos before. And yeah, but do you have a take on how people just, I guess, because you work with people who have no channel, and then, okay, you have done where they have no channel and you're like launching the channel with them. You're doing all the stuff. And so they're just sitting in front of a camera and filming. Like, how do you choose how to refine their positioning and their niche, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, I was going to build on what you were saying, because I definitely think the strategy evolves over time. And like, you have an idea of what you think your YouTube strategy is. You go into creating YouTube content, then 1 to 2 months down the line, you start collecting data, and then you build your YouTube strategy around the data that you're collecting. And you start to see where you're finding fit with the audience around the content ideas and what's resonating and what's not resonating. But before I even think about the niche, like obviously if you have an area of expertise, it makes a lot of sense to be able to make videos in that niche. There is like one layer above this, and I think it's just having something to say in the space where everyone right now is presenting as an authority. They all want to look the same with the same video titles and ideas. They all present the same. They follow similar frameworks. And now you have AI tools which in many ways speed up the process of production, but it almost like homogenizes what the content can look and feel like, especially if you're reading off of a teleprompter. I think it's more important than ever before to actually have something to say. And this is going to sound very meta, but I've found that like leaning into your intuition a little bit around like what you think hasn't been said in the space that you have to be able to say, but mapping that onto a YouTube first strategy is a way better fit than just blindly following the data and like optimizing everything from day one.
I was going to say that I think maybe it's slightly different to the people that Saf helps, which are sort of established entrepreneurs. But the biggest mistake I see creators make when they're starting on YouTube is jumping to that niche question before they've actually asked why they're doing it and actually thought about what is the purpose of growing my YouTube channel. And I think actually sitting with that question and trying to work out, okay, do I want to grow my business? Am I doing it for like, we've talked about this before, but like it kind of comes down to fame or fortune, really, starting a YouTube channel. Do I either want to be famous or do you want money? And usually like the money comes as a result of fun.
But I guess that's not really who we're talking to, maybe.
I would say if you want to do it for fun, then you shouldn't be concerned with the metrics.
Yeah.
And most people who start on YouTube are concerned with the metrics eventually.
Yeah. And I think deep down, most people aren't doing it for fun.
Yeah. And the fame or fortune thing is a very like arbitrary, broad way of defining it. But fundamentally, it kind of comes down to that. And I don't think enough people think about like why they actually want to do it before moving forward. And in like the current situation where YouTube is, it's like never been a better chance to sort of start and be able to create a business off the back of a relatively small following. You know, you're a good example of that, Aman. Like you've got 70,000 followers or whatever it is now, which is a lot, but like you were monetizing and making six figures well before that with an offer that is very similar to ours. And we've got 10 times more subscribers, but I suspect our conversion rates at the moment on the high ticket products is quite similar. But the point is like actually having an idea of where you want to go with your channel, I think is more important almost than like what you want to say to start with. Like what you want to say kind of comes after that.
Just my observation, because I ask this question to people all the time. Do you want to get rich or do you want to get famous?
Yeah.
The first thing they always say is both. I want both. I'm like, no. If you had to pick one, we had to optimize for fame or for fortune, which one would you pick? They just sigh, they look off into the distance and they go, fortune. Like 99% of the time, the people I speak with, the attraction of YouTube is fortune. And I think increasingly it's because of they want to build businesses off the back of the YouTube content. So they direct the traffic to their own offers. Maybe once upon a time, it was like AdSense and sponsorships and that kind of thing. But I can only really speak from my experience in the space of like entrepreneurship and thought leaders and stuff. It might be slightly different to the clients you work with.
But also that question of like, what do you want? A lot of people resort to like subscribers or views, but those are vehicles to get to fame or fortune. And that most people don't make that connection. Like, what are they actually like? Subscribers is fine, but like doesn't really mean anything. Or views is exactly the same. Doesn't really mean anything unless you want the fame one. But generally, people want the fame one for the money, and so they want both.
I feel like what's interesting, Saf, you mentioned how most people you talk to want the fortune, except for the entrepreneurs you talk to because they already have the fortune. They want to go for the fame. I feel like if I look back into when I was doing this in the early days, I feel like I wanted both. Like you said, I feel like most people are just going to say both.
Yeah.
But if you really dive into it, I think you guys are right. Like most people would go for fortune.
I think when people are in the early stages of business and YouTube, I think they have people. This at least was my experience. I had this like vague idea that a successful YouTube channel would solve all my problems. I would feel kind of famous and kind of rich. It would satisfy both. It would satisfy both of those things. This idea that if you're someone who's like got a job or just has this like hasn't got a successful business already and isn't making money from another business already, I feel like the typical sort of Ali Abdaal follower or person that I work with, they just have this idea that like a successful YouTube channel will solve all their problems kind of thing, or solve a lot of their problems, and just it will help them get rich and it'll help them spread their message and like get a bit of notoriety and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like in the early days, the two numbers I put on a pedestal were 100K subscribers and 10K per month.
Yeah.
And those are the two things where like, if I achieve both of those, like I've just done it in life.
I think that's basically what like most people who haven't achieved those things want, or one of those things.
So what is the reality in your opinion?
Oh, and then eventually everyone cares about the money. Like the fame is, if you have the fame without the money, if you have a channel, I speak to so many YouTubers because this is what like my program, I attract people who aren't making as much money as they expect from their YouTube channel. That's like the whole thing that I help people with is they're like, I I just would not have expected that by the time I got to 100,000 subscribers that I would still only be making this much kind of thing. So I think there comes a point where people just do not give a shit about the subscriber number, the views, the fame, whatever, if they're not making the money. Like they just, I've not met anyone who's like happy with that reality where they have a big channel but aren't making very much money. So yeah, 100% it is the, like what people want first is the money. And then I think the fame, if the money is satisfied, is still a big part of it for some people, but not everyone.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like another example is I recently met a guy like 6 months ago who's a short form creator with literally over 1 million subscribers. And he was like, I stress about rent because I just can't monetize this. Yeah. And whereas if you talk to a guy with like, let's say, I don't know, 20,000 subscribers and they like have a very profitable, successful business, they're usually chilling. Like maybe they want to like grow the fame aspect a little bit, but their day-to-day is fine. So I feel like the first step, like you said, Angus, and I feel like we're all in agreement here, is just get really aligned. Like fame, fun, fortune. If you had to kill two and get one, what would you actually pick?
Yeah.
I think most people would pick fortune.
And kill fun as well.
Yeah.
Kill fame and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm a big fan of killing fun.
Yeah. I feel like you're more on that.
Yeah. Bro,
whatever it takes to get it done. Yeah. I feel like it depends. Everyone's different. Like it depends on what you want. Some people it's just not worth it if the experience of doing it sucks. Like, and they just like, this isn't worth it to me. Just this hustle is just, or like the work that I have to do is not worth it for the outcome. But it just depends on your personality, I think, like how much you want it and like just how much you like doing all the different tasks. I think that's a big part of it.
All right, quick break. If you're trying to leave the 9-to-5 and build a business, this book has to be on your desk. $100 Million Money Models by Alex Hormozi. The whole $100 Million series genuinely changed the game for me. It helped me nail offer structure, pricing, and packaging, and how to pick models that actually scale, not just sound good on paper. I credit this series to helping me build $1 million business in my 20s after leaving my corporate job. Now here's the fun part. I bought 200 copies to give away to listeners who want to start or level up their business. Here's how to get yours. You need to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. An honest review, you can say whatever you want, screenshot it, and just email the screenshot to reviews@manazir.org. We'll then send you a link to claim a free copy. We cover the cost of the book, you just cover shipping. That's it. If you want the ultimate resource to get serious about your offer and revenue model, this is it. So just leave a review, screenshot it, and email us. There are only 200 copies available, so do this as fast as possible. All right, back to the episode. I want to go back to something you said, Tintin, earlier, because I really related to it. In the early days of creating my channel, first of all, I didn't have much expertise in anything because I was like a random 19 or 20-year-old. And then also I had all these random interests too, right? So like I was interested in fitness. I was interested in computer science. I was making some vlogs. I made like a video vlogging Ramadan, like all these random things, right? Like, so how do you decide if you're like just a random guy? Because I think it's easy if someone's like a doctor or they're a lawyer or they're an actual expert or they've done something. But if you're talking to like the random 21-year-old.
Well, knowing what you know now, before you had the internships and software engineering job offers, like, was there something that you could have monetized, do you think? At 19 or 20, before the internships, before the offers, like with the skills you had at that time, like, do you think that was a business that you could have built through the channel?
That's a really good question. My honest opinion here is no. Like, you have to have some kind of authority.
You had nothing. You had you had no skills that you think you could have helped your younger self with, kind of thing.
Like, I think there were skills I could have helped my younger self with. I think like the most obvious ones were like maybe like, I don't know, standardized testing in high school.
Yeah.
Maybe like some college admissions angle.
Yeah.
Right. But the way it always works is I did something and then in hindsight would help people do the same thing. And I think that's kind of like the story of every educational creator. Like they've done something and then they've helped other people do that. So I feel like at the time, if I was talking to my younger self, I would catalog what I was doing. And then maybe as soon as I achieved some kind of meaningful outcome, then start to help people do the same thing. Even now, like, you know, with the software engineering aspect, like I did that for many years, achieved like whatever success in there. Now I help people do the same thing. Let's say a decade from now, the thing I'm building right now is monetizing a YouTube channel with a high ticket offer, right? So like, let's say 5 years from now, I decide, hey, I'm no longer interested in the software engineering thing. I would pivot to teaching other people to do what I did over the past 5 years, which is use a high ticket offer to monetize.
But so, because I think this is an interesting example. At the time, when you're 19 or 20, if you'd really wanted to monetize either like high school exams or getting into college, I think you could have done. Like, but if you had the skill sets and knowledge you have right now, you go back to being 20 years old, just got into university. I mean, that's kind of what Ali did as well. He helped people get into med school. And he monetized it. If you'd like been like, I'm going to go all in on this, force it to make it work, don't care about how much fun I'm going to have, you probably could have done. But I guess you probably just wouldn't have wanted to as well, which is why the like fun thing and like what actually excites you is super important, because you probably just been like, oh, this is a bit boring. I don't want to talk about college admissions all the time. Maybe you would have done, but like,
I actually don't think, for me personally, like the fun is not really in the question here. Like it's like how viable is it?
But you could have made a living doing that, helping people get into college. Yeah.
Potentially.
A good living, I think.
Maybe.
Well,
I mean, with the skills I have now.
I don't know the space that well, but like,
yeah. I think in the US, the whole college, I mean, potentially, right? Like I just didn't have, just looking at like this, I think it really depends on like what is actual authority, like what have I actually done? And I mean, you started with a consulting, right? Kind of, right?
Yeah, I did. I think this is something I've really noticed over the past, like over a year now, of helping people build their high ticket offers or just monetize their audience in general, like, or build a business is a nice way of saying it. Is that you start with a tiny little bit of proof from your own journey. And then you get your first client, and then you get a second client, or you get your first few customers if it's like a community or a course. And the proof just stacks up over time. But not only does the proof stack up, your ability to help someone through that process also grows. And so even if you start with just like a tiny bit of knowledge about how to get someone into a college, like, or the admissions process or whatever, after like 5 years of doing that, you just know a ton about the process. And you just get better and better. Like that all compounds to help you build the business and help you get more views and get more sales, all that kind of stuff. And so that if you're willing to do it for long enough, you don't actually need to know that much about the process. You just need to know but what I know now compared to what I knew when I first launched my program about helping YouTubers monetize their audiences, like, I'm like, I can't believe I actually like went ahead with that. Like I knew enough, but like, I'm like, the advice I was giving at the very start was like nowhere near as helpful as it is now. But I can't remember what the original question was, but like I feel like that is the kind of the niche thing, and like being able to monetize something at some point, like over a long enough time horizon, I think you're able to do it, if that makes sense. Yeah,
I feel like from what I'm hearing, what I've also thought about, while you were discussing that, I feel like the solution is just find something you've done, whether that's getting into high school or passing high school, getting into some good university, standardized testing, internships, consulting, something, right? And start with that. And then over time, the proof stacks.
Yeah.
Right? It's better
your own learning of how to help people stacks.
Exactly.
Which to start with is like one thing people are super nervous about. Like you were super nervous about this. When you get your first client, you're like, I don't actually know how to help you get the result. I just kind of like vaguely know the things you should do. But then you get better and better at doing that as well.
Do you think the meta today is to pick one niche and make every single video about that? Or do you think it's better to be like an all-around creator, kind of follow your interests, make videos here and there about different topics?
Yeah, I think it's not one niche. It's like a singular value proposition. And a value proposition could encompass multiple niches. It could encompass different things. But the value proposition itself is like the lens through which you see the world and the way you want to be able to help people. And so you'd pick a specific avatar to help them achieve a certain outcome. And so for Ali, that was about productivity. But I never would have thought he'd make a productive skincare routine video and it would blow up as much as it did. And it was great. It was like, oh, wow, this is the 80-20 of everything I need to know about skincare. And it spoke to a very specific demographic, a very specific person. But you wouldn't, you could have disqualified that on the basis it wasn't sitting inside the niche of studying or education. So whenever I'm working with people, I'm trying to help them distill or reflect back to them, like, what is the value propositions that you can offer to your audience? And then can we go across YouTube or can we do some research to figure out like how much demand is there for that value proposition if you wanted to grow if you wanted to maximize growth rather than maximizing fun, for instance.
If you were to define value proposition for someone who's completely unfamiliar, what would you define it as?
It's like an exchange of value. It's like you're trying to help them achieve their dream outcome. A value proposition is, it is a very jargony word, I know, but it's almost like, what's the transformation you're trying to promise to the viewer on the other side? And so it could be, I help digital nomads to make their first $1,000 online. And it's got a very specific avatar with a very specific dream outcome. And you could decide to start a podcast where you interview digital nomads. You could decide to do a roundtable format. You could decide to do talking head explainer videos. You could decide to do vlogs. But all of those different formats lend itself to the value proposition of helping digital nomads make their first $1,000.
And how do you find your value proposition?
So I've got an observation on this, which kind of builds on the point you guys were saying earlier, where recently someone had come to me and they said, like, Saf, there's so many entrepreneurs out there that talk about they've built incredible businesses and they've done this in the past and now they want to teach other people, but they all look and feel and sound the same. They talk about their past successes. Saf, I want to be the guy who's like building it in public in real time. I'm going to show people that I'm actually like doing it today. And it kind of forced me to do some research around content that's like backwards looking, present day looking, and like forward looking. And there are a lot more data points to suggest that the backward looking content does better because you're speaking from a place of experience, you've got lots of authority. The present day content tends to be a bit more hit or miss. They're usually personality driven channels. They're usually building in public. It's usually vlogs, but there are fewer data points of people who've done it and done it well. Greg Eisenberg is like a great example of someone who does like more present day type content.
Daniel Dalen.
Daniel Dalen is also like fantastic. And everyone is trying to copy the Daniel Dalen blueprint. And then there's like future facing content, which is a bit more like predictive trends and looking outwards into the future. And there's far fewer data points for that. So if you are, I think it kind of encompasses the question we were talking about earlier. I do really believe that like working from a place of experience, from authority, where do you believe you could be a category winner in your space because you have enough proof points there? It can start off small and it can get bigger over time, but I think you've got to have something from along your journey where you could help someone to achieve that outcome. And once you've like taken stock and you've written down, let's say 20 different value propositions you could help people with, it's about sorting them into what's the highest leverage value proposition. Where do we have the most data to support that this value prop works best on YouTube? And so it might be really clear it's entrepreneurship versus spirituality has a smaller TAM or a smaller audience. And then you have to make a decision like which direction do I want to take the channel?
The present, past, future, or the past, present, future example I thought that was really great. I feel like the ultimate is recent past. So something you did like last month, that's impressive. That's, in that kind of value proposition. Like for example, if I look at my niche, right? The stuff I did in software engineering myself was like a few years back. So it's less impactful. And I see like new people pop up all the time who get like 100K views on like videos here and there. And it's because they're like, like at my job at Meta right now, last week, this happened, right? So there's something special about like that recency, recent past effect. I don't know if you see anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's almost kind of like a credibility issue. It's kind of like, does Aman really have the credibility to talk about this topic? Because it happened a few years ago and the landscape for software engineering jobs have really changed. AI has really come in and like this new creator has more perceived credibility because they've done it in like a recent time. And I would say I wouldn't like completely write off people who have done stuff from a few years ago. Look at Rory Sutherland. Rory Sutherland is like an expert in marketing and he's done stuff a long time ago, but he still has the credibility, he still stays on the cutting edge, he still engages in conversation. So I wouldn't like completely dismiss it as like you've got to constantly be sharpening the axe and being in the present day, because I do think there are other days to handle objections and build credibility that don't rely on you consistently being in the game.
For sure. Well, I think part of it with Rory Sutherland is that he's just an incredible speaker and presenter, right? So like his just analysis itself stands on its own compared to his actual ethos and authority, right? And sometimes people get like, for example, Stephen Bartlett, right? I guess his original claim to fame was like the company he sold in his like early 20s or something, right? Now it's like they're kind of like building ethos and authority as they go, right? Like now his authority is like Diary of a CEO, like the second biggest podcast in the world, right? So, and even like Alex Hormozi, for example, like his original thing was based off of like Gymshark. Gym Launch. Something I did a few years ago, sold his company for like 60 million or something. But now they're constantly building new authority what they're currently doing.
Yeah, there's a really good point. I think Dan Martell is also a very good example of that as well. I think he was originally known as the Buy Back Your Time guy and he was making a lot of YouTube content, but then he took the AI angle very seriously and started experimenting very heavily in the space and started building the credibility as the go-to guy for AI stuff. And so now when he makes an AI video, it sort of like sets the direction for the niche and then everybody else copies him.
So we've kind of picked value proposition and niche. Let's talk about videos. Like, what should your first 10 videos be? I'd be curious from your perspective, Saf, like when you work with new entrepreneurs, you refine a niche and a value prop. Like how do you pick what videos to make?
Yeah, good question. I actually did this today for a client called Josh Thomas, who's an accountant based here in the UK. And accountancy is it can be a very narrow niche. You're appealing to business owners, but also top 1% business owners. So how do you create content that really stands out? It's like really broad appeal that really earns the click. And with him, we already kind of knew what the value proposition is because he's got a lot of credibility. But then we go through a process of studying the space, looking at his competitors, looking at YouTube more generally, trying to understand what are the video ideas, the topics, the formats that are working really well right now, and uncovering what are the different angles that we can lean into so that if we made 10 videos, these are literally the best 10 videos you can make. Let me just give it to you on a sheet of paper, go away and make them, and one of them will blow up because we've been able to validate their potential and their ceiling. So some of the things that came up from it was like, there were certain topics such as what's the right, this is going to sound very boring, but what's like the group tax structure? Like which is a really interesting area for entrepreneurs. There's something else around like negativity bias and fear. So right now, HMRC is like a keyword that when you put it in the title, their ears prick up. At the moment, inheritance tax is a big hot topic here in the UK with some of the changes in legislation. By the way, I have no interest in all of this stuff. Like I have to learn this stuff from scratch, but I think it goes to show that anybody can take a methodical approach to doing the research. And ultimately, the job of any YouTube strategist is to be a researcher. All you're doing is gathering data, collecting the insights, and then making the best decision you can off the back of it. And once you've sort of put together all of these insights and you've looked at different examples of outlier videos that are working in the space, you've reverse engineered why they're working, then you can go to town with like, what are the 10 videos to make and why? And you have a very clear picture of the different levers on why they did so well. Are some of them a bit more time sensitive? Are some of them a bit more evergreen? And you can start to put them in a rank order. And so usually for the first 10 videos, I like to lean into videos that have a really clear, a very big and a very specific value proposition. Something that would blow somebody away. It would be like a much longer form explainer video. What it wouldn't be is a very specific ICP-based video on a very narrow topic, because I don't think that's the right way to launch a channel. I think the right way to launch a channel is to get more views and subscribers, to be very top of funnel. And once you've got a returning audience and you've got interest, that's when you can start hitting them with some of these follow-up videos later on.
I was going to ask about whether, like, I guess it's kind of interesting because if someone doesn't have a team that you're providing for this guy Josh, they don't have someone doing that for them, their first 10 videos will look very different because they're learning so many different skills, like how to edit thumbnails, what videos to make in the first place, like all that kind of stuff. I feel so if you have, I think it's a completely different process if you know how to make videos versus if you don't know how to make videos, or you're getting someone to make the videos for you. But do you find that even though you're doing all the work and like you're, jumping them ahead a year in terms of their ability, like the production value of the videos, do you find that still the camera presence is like someone's ability to communicate on camera in an engaging way is still something that you can't, like, people need to learn, and that you can't speed up, you can't like rush that journey?
It's such a big risk. Like, you can give someone the best 10 video ideas to make, and if they don't have the camera confidence, or they don't have clear thinking or clear frameworks, and they can't deliver on the value proposition in a good way, it's almost like it's a wasted video. It's not actually a wasted video. You can always remake it. But camera confidence like matters so much. And with some of the clients that we've worked with, this sounds like an ad. Some of the people I've worked with over the years, we've given them the best video ideas. We've given them the best packaging, and like the CTRs are really strong, but the average view duration will be really bad. The retention will be really bad. There'll be other things that are really bad that we can't put down to post-production because we're leveling up the post-production over time. It comes down to delivery. It comes down to charisma. It comes down to trust. Like, does the viewer actually trust that this person's the right messenger for this particular topic? And in the case of that example I just gave, we actually took the exact same idea and gave it to another creator who was like much bigger in the space sometime afterwards, and they ended up making the same video to a much better success. And so I do, and the difference here is creator one was 10 videos in, comparing themselves to someone who'd done like 1,600 videos, and creator two had done like 1,600 videos, and this is just another walk in the park for him. He knows exactly how to show up. He knows exactly how to connect with people. He knows how to deliver a message in the right way. So I think it's for someone who can't afford a team and is starting out on YouTube for the first time, the best muscle to build is the muscle of being in front of camera and practicing videos, just making the first thing and don't overthink the first 10 video ideas. Yeah. You're not convinced.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that packaging matters less than the video itself.
Well, packaging is critical. YouTube is still a point-and-click platform, so you have to have good packaging to earn the click. But packaging looks and feels more the same today than it did 5 years ago, because people can model, viral videos very, very easily. So, packaging is a little bit more of a moving target, but I'd say that the bar is higher than ever for good packaging. And if you decide to go for bad packaging, often it's a very intentional choice because you're trying to earn the scroll stop. So even then, in a way, it's fantastic packaging and it's worth studying. So the edge isn't just at packaging. The edge is actually in your hook, your first 30 seconds, and how you're delivering the video and how you're going to get good retention throughout the video. And I think when you talk about retention, it's very easy to think about the Mr. Beastification of a video. How do we optimize every cut? How do you optimize every edit? How do you optimize every line? But retention, in my experience, especially with thought leaders and people who have a message to share with the world, is often trust and like telling a story. And to bring this back to Ali, he made a video called How to Get Rich, with the uncomfortable truth of how to get rich. And he sat down and recorded this video, and he began the video by saying, I was at a dinner party and this guy sat down and asked me a question, how do I get rich? And I'm going to call him X for whatever reason. This wasn't a scripted hook. This wasn't a scripted delivery. This actually came from the heart. But he was a teacher, and he was teaching the lessons that he gave to that person it was a real story, and there was like enormous credibility around it. The advice he would give to him, and the uncomfortable truth was that you just got to be obsessed with getting rich if you want to become rich. And that often comes at sacrifice to personal relationships and all these other things. And he talks about different case studies and stuff like that. But if you were to take the transcript of this video and give it to like a traditional YouTube strategist, they might look at it and be like, look, you've repeated your point 5 times in the video.
Yeah.
You've done 7 tangential stories. I don't think you should cut this, you should cut that. But actually, there is some source around the way that Ali had delivered it with a lot of personality, and it drove retention. It drove a very long average view duration. And so the edge there wasn't just the packaging. The packaging was great. How to Get Rich was like a very short title. The Uncomfortable Truth was teasing some kind of value. And you can reverse engineer that stuff ahead of time for sure. But the video itself had source because it had retention and it had a good hook. It had so many good, wonderful things working for it that wasn't Mr. Beast style video editing.
It was just real as well, which I think is like something that the platform is like increasingly looking for, or people are looking for just in general. Is like not something that's super optimized, just like honest, real content.
I feel like packaging is commoditized these days. I mean, a great example you brought up, Saf, is that people will purposefully do bad packaging because it stands out. I think an example, I don't know if he's doing this intentionally, but like Nicholas Cole, like he has a business channel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys get those videos, but like I think the packaging's purposeful. Like the thumbnail's like,
yeah.
Like it's
I sometimes think his packaging is actually bad.
I hope he doesn't listen to this.
Sorry, Nicholas. Yeah. I know what you mean. I feel like he's in that weird middle ground where like his thumbnails are like just inconsistent and like weird. I feel like you can have kind of bad like basic packaging or like, and it works well. Like Charlie Morgan is a good example. He's had like, super mixed titles, thumbnails, and they've worked for him well, but they've always been kind of like consistent. So it's kind of felt right in a way, or like felt like, it's just worked, and he's like doubled down on it, and there's always like a bit of a vibe going on his channel. With Nicholas Cole, I feel like there's just super inconsistent. There's like so much different stuff going on. Yeah, that's just a random thought. But yeah, I think you can have like, you can have good packaging that is like bad or whatever, but the content is ultimately what people come for or come back for as well. So I think packaging is 50%, and the content is 50% of the whole YouTube game.
I would agree. I think packaging can matter less when you've already got authority in the space. Like Hormozi's second channel is a good example where it seems like it's just a screenshot. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's a bit more thought into it, but like it looks just like a screenshot, and that's where like the content matters and the authority matters more. Because I would click on one of those videos without thinking about, oh, that's a really interesting thumbnail. Whereas other channels that have less authority or that are new to you or your viewing habits, like you kind of need to be intrigued enough to click on the thumbnail. Like it's more of a front door, I guess. So yeah, that would be that. But packaging matters much more than people think. When you're starting out, one of the biggest mistakes creators make is under appreciating packaging. I meant almost kind of going too much the other way of like, oh, I need to make it really Mr. Beastie or really bright colors or really, without thinking actually it is, I don't know, it's not sound too cliche, but it's like, it is an art, and you need to think about like what would actually stop people scrolling and want to click on this video. And And I think a lot of people kind of almost veer too much towards, we need to make it bright and shiny and as many things as possible on the thumbnail to catch our attention, whereas often simplicity is better.
Yeah, on my own personal experience, I think I've almost over-invested in packaging. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but for me at least,
Yeah.
my
Yeah, I'd agree.
yeah, like my packaging is pretty good. Like I think like if you look at my channel,
Yeah, it's good.
I don't know. Again, this could just be like, I don't know. I feel like if I look at my channel, like I put a lot of effort into like the actual thumbnails and the titles themselves, and maybe like under-invested in like the video, or like the idea, right? So I also feel like
Have you ever A/B tested though, just like a screenshot?
like a terrible screen. Oh,
Yeah.
dude, that's a great idea.
Because I as I said, I think one thing I see that people do, like they sort of over-invest maybe, but over-engineer their packaging to try to fit the YouTube meta. And sometimes it's actually better just to kind of go against the grain, especially now at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like A/B testing with like whatever I'm doing currently, and then like a purposefully like toned down one would be super interesting. Because like right now we A/B test with like two really polished concepts, but it'd be super interesting to like because we just get like we don't get much useful information from that because they're both kind of the same, Another point is that like with AI, it's just so easy to copy packaging. Like I've seen people literally take my exact packaging for like 10 videos, exact same title, thumbnail, they'll right-click Google Images, throw it into like any image generation tool, put a photo of themselves, swap the guys out, boom, done. Literally, it's like not even a care in the world, whereas like the video itself, people can still copy that, but it's like, there's a lot more effort to like download a script and just copy the exact script. And
It
like
feels worse than
yeah,
copying a thumbnail.
exactly.
Yeah.
For at least for me personally, I think I'm leaning more towards like video itself being a little bit more important than the packaging. That's just for me, I think.
Well, I suspect you don't have visibility on like how well your videos are performing, and it's like going off of a gut. But there is a way to like go into a YouTube studio and then break down your videos and take your last 10, for instance, and take an average of like your average percentage viewed, like how many people, how long do people stick around for? How does it compare to benchmarks in your industry? If you've got friends with access to their YouTube studios, which I'm sure you do, like the Leak Code guys, you can compare that. Look at the average view duration for the video as well. Like how can you ramp that up? But my feeling is probably the same, because I think sometimes the approach to content can be very formulaic because it's the content hamster wheel. You got to get out one piece of content a week. It's often an afterthought, like what are you actually teaching? And it's more like, no, we have to get the video out, and we have to plug as well. And so a combination of forces basically leads to like the thing you're trying to say is like, what are you saying, and how are you saying it, and how are you differentiating yourself? And yeah, I think the edge used to be packaging alone, and you could probably just model all of the outliers and do very well. And now the bar is higher than it's ever been before. Creator literacy is higher than ever been before. As you said, there's so many tools that help you now. So you have to find a new edge. And I think a new edge is going to be in hooks and the content of the video itself.
Let's talk about videos that do badly. So, I mean, Saf, you do autopsies and videos for entrepreneurs that flop, right?
Yeah, an autopsy.
Yeah. So when a video fails and the entrepreneur comes, knocking on your door and be like, Saf, this video failed. What's like your step-by-step approach to find out what happened and fix it for the future?
Okay, I think the first thing I'd say on this is sometimes you invest so much time into a video idea and it just completely flops. And other times you just YOLO a video idea and it absolutely takes off. And this is like this law which exists with so many creators. If you speak to them, they'll talk about how some of their best performing videos, it was just an idea and they delivered it to camera and they didn't overthink it. And so I definitely believe that the performance of a YouTube video is as much of a science as it is an art. It's not, in hindsight, everything is 20/20 and you can start to see like, oh, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, whatever it might be. And so when you're doing an autopsy of a video, you are just trying to look at what are the different factors that could have been at play over here. But if I had to be really concrete instead of being very abstract, what I'd be looking for is, firstly, if a video is dead in the water, it means that it hasn't resonated with the existing audience on the channel. And so I would be looking at what is the click-through rate for that video, because that video was surfaced to your existing audience. And so your existing audience hasn't engaged with it. It's not really vibing with them. And because of that, this video won't be surfaced to a wider audience. And so you look at the video topic. Maybe the video topic was not a topic which had the core casual new audience fit, which is basically like appeals to your subs, appeals to your niche, and appeals to like the whole planet. And that you can look at the video, like, okay, yeah, fine. No wonder this video didn't perform well. It's a 3-minute video on why service businesses are better than product businesses. And then you go, okay, fine. So the idea is the problem. So click-through rate can often be very interesting as a first step when trying to diagnose why a video didn't get off the ground. But then you can also look at other things as well. Like, where did this video idea come from? Was it modeled off of an outlier that was like 5 years old and has like interest moved on? Yeah, there are all sorts of different things that you can lean on. But I usually start with the CTR. And if the CTR is lower than it's supposed to be, then my job is to repackage that video to get it to a point that it would engage with the existing audience. And then hopefully we still have enough time to be able to get this out and shared with the world. Once a video starts having traction, this is like sort of the next phase in the autopsy. So it depends on how dead we're talking. But once the video starts to have traction, you'll notice views start to pick up, impressions start to pick up, which is great. You're getting a steady stream of viewers coming in. At that point, you can start A/B testing to identify, does certain packaging lead to better watch time? Does it lead to better CTR? But then the other thing is your retention curve will have like a lot more granularity, a lot more resolution. And then you can start to see on the retention curve, like, did we lose people very quickly at a certain point? Did they stick around at a certain point because we showed an overhead camera or a B-roll or something like that? And then you can start to reverse engineer. And obviously the performance of a video is not down to the B-roll being included or not. It's down to a number of different factors. But if you're going to take a scientific approach, there are different ways that you can interpret the data to figure out, okay, so what really went wrong over here? What did we learn? And what can we implement for next time? And to put things into perspective, like on YouTube, not every video is going to be a hit. And I think when you talk about the success stories and you look at all the viral videos and the really popular ones, it's easy to think all of them hit. But like 8 times out of 10, the videos just do okay. They're like 5 out of 10 in YouTube Studio, and then 2 out of 10 hit. And then you're like, oh my God, and then that's worth celebrating. But it's really worth like setting expectations because not every video can be a 1 of 10.
And also remembering that like YouTube, unlike any other social media platform, if a video is a 10 out of 10, it could still be surfaced to someone a year later on their home screen. That doesn't happen on Instagram or LinkedIn. Like, I don't see one of your posts from LinkedIn from like last year suddenly pop up today. It's just like, this doesn't happen. So there's always the context of the platform that I think needs to be taken into account. But I would also echo everything that Saf said there.
Yeah, this is really true. I call those like slow burners. It's like the video looks like it's dead off the ground. You kind of A/B test it. You're like pivoting. You're trying to find the right fit. You've done the actual best that you can, and it's still not going anywhere. And you've got to make a decision to move on because that video is out and into the world, and you do move on. But then you might come back like a few months later or 6 months later, and the video's like absolutely taken off. And we had this on Daniel Priestley's channel with a video we did around sales. It was called 25 years of sales knowledge in X minutes, whatever it was. This video was like a 7 out of 10. I was like, why do people not want to know about sales? So you're going to learn from Daniel Priestley how to run sales. And it's like, it is genuinely useful stuff. He goes through his sales like methodology, his framework, how he runs the calls, the cadence, the lead gen. He takes you through the whole journey, common objections, AI tools. I couldn't figure it out. We kept like innovating with the packaging. And the packaging we landed on was like a Wolf of Wall Street, sell me this pen packaging, which was, it was a rogue idea. It was I had no idea if that would land. But the data seemed to indicate that it's fine. It's in line with the CTR. Things were okay. It just wasn't picking up. We had to leave it. But then fast forward 6 months later, and it's like vastly outperformed like the typical curve. And it's like over 500K views or something like that now at this point. But that was a real slow burner, and you'd be forgiven for writing it off. But then at some point in the future, it comes around.
That was a sick thumbnail. I still remember like he's like, sell me this pen.
Yeah.
It's like really, really epic. So great job on that. Saf, I feel like you're really big into the metrics. You know, metrics are huge, man. So like,
metrics are huge.
What do you think? Metrics or no metrics?
Metrics is a thing I check when I get out of bed in the morning in YouTube Studio. It's a thing I check when I'm at work. It's a thing I check before I go to sleep. I can't help but look at the metrics. And I think when I look at metrics, I look at charts. It's like I'm reading a different language now because I start to see the shapes of curves, numbers, first 24 hours, 7 days, those kinds of things. And it's like, right, we need to like adjust this lever, run this test, do that. So yeah, I'm pretty into the data. I really do believe that it's the best. Let's put this differently. YouTube Studio gives you access to the level of data that billion-dollar companies would dream of. They tell you the exact CTRs, the exact retention rates, the end screen click-throughs, average percentage viewed. If you go into YouTube Studio in advanced mode, you would be overwhelmed with the amount of data that you have access to. And I don't think enough creators, once they have got traction, know how to use and understand their data to make better decisions about their content going forwards. And I think it's a real skill to be able to interpret that, because so often we try to learn from other people in the space, but the biggest source of our learnings is what's been working for our channel, what's been working for us, and doubling down on that and building a strategy around this. So yeah, that's why I feel like data is really important. And I think it's really slept on.
Easier than ever to analyze that data now, because you can just export it as CSV and chuck it into Claude or ChatGPT and ask that to analyze it. Like it's, yeah, I agree.
Like quite a different take on the data.
Let's hear it.
I guess one question I have for you is, when you were making your Apple Watch videos, did you really use the data? Like, were you not just like, this is a new watch that's come out, let's make a video on it?
For context, I think my second or third ever video I made on YouTube recently anyway, on my second channel, was a video which was a size comparison between two Apple Watches. I was debating whether to get the 41mm or 45mm, and nobody had posted a review about this. Nobody made a YouTube video about it. So I thought, all right, let me just order both of them. And since I'm trying to make YouTube videos and I can make it about anything, I would record my own explainer. And this video was awful. I didn't know the camera settings, so it kept getting brighter and it kept getting darker. The microphone was like way too loud. The number one comment was like, bro, turn down the music. We can't even hear what you're trying to say. But this video, it just went absolutely mental, and it just kept pumping views and views and views. It kept like, I think it's probably close to 1 million or something like that now at this point.
Recently?
This is 2 years ago, and it's been building over time. And at that time, people weren't really modeling viral outliers, but I remember taking it really personally when someone had modeled my outlier on the latest Apple Watch. I was like, I don't want to do Apple Watch stuff. So to answer the question, no, I didn't.
You made lots of videos after that, but were you looking at the data, or were you thinking like, I'll just make more videos about Apple Watches, like try some different examples, like look at the space a little bit, see what's going on? Like, were you actually in YouTube Studio being like, click-through rate, average view duration? I'm just going to try and make some good videos.
Well, the thing is, like, even if you weren't looking at the data in YouTube Studio, which I wasn't, you couldn't get away from the fact that you built an audience around one topic, around one value proposition that people loved, they stuck around for.
Yeah.
And every future video I uploaded was being surfaced to an audience who actually just wanted to watch Apple Watch content.
But the data doesn't like help you at all with that. It just
the data at that point is the number of views. And so the number of views I would get on videos would be really low. I'm like, okay, so the data being the views is really low. But every time I make an Apple Watch video, suddenly everyone wants Apple Watch videos. They want comparisons of Samsung Galaxy watches. And then I started brainstorming, okay, what are the different topics that I could explore to be able to teach them on that?
So that's my take on data, is like, I think the only piece of data you need to look at is views. I obsess over I open YouTube Studio all the time, like look at the views, and like in click-through rate and impressions count. It makes you feel good to like look at the numbers. My take is kind of common sense most of the time why videos haven't done well. I think click-through rate, I like rarely look at it on my own channel, and on Ali's channel it never meant anything really, because like the topics were so varied that like it was always just obvious that like, the audience are less interested in this, they're more interested in this, like, and that was my take. I take a very different approach on the data side of things. I'm just like, it's most of the time it's just like, just you need to make the videos better, like comparing your attention to someone else in your niche, being like, my average view duration is 4 minutes versus yours is 5 minutes. Like, okay, like you still need to make the videos better. Like whatever you're doing, like you always need to try and make your videos better, come up with interesting ideas that the people in your space, in your audience want to watch. And it's normally reasonably straightforward, I think, on given channel, like why it's not performing well, or why a video hasn't performed well. Sometimes it's tricky. Sometimes it's just hard to know. Like you don't know, because the audience, it's hard to interpret like what the audience are actually thinking. And like on your channel, sometimes you might just be like, why the hell didn't that do better? And you just don't like, do you feel that sometimes? Like,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, calling back to what Steph said, like every YouTuber's had the experience where you make a video and you're like, this is going to slap.
Yeah.
Like every reason points to this thing right. Yeah. And it just doesn't do well at all.
Yeah. I think the answers to you growing your channel are not in YouTube Studio at all, personally. I think like seeing the videos on your channel and the view counts there is like all the data you need to know about your channel. Obviously the audience is like, it's kind of nice to know that like most people are in the US and like it's mostly male. All that stuff is that stuff is useful. That's obviously, use the data that you've got. And I think the audience tab in YouTube Studio is particularly important. But my take is that the view counts on your videos that you've got, which everyone can see, is like the main data you need to know to to inform like the future direction of the channel. But even away from that, it's just like, I just need to make my videos better. I need to talk about more relevant things. I need to maybe try and mix up my content, try more experiments. Like, yeah, if I was doing an audit on someone's channel, I just hate the data basically. But that's the thing, is that I can't be bothered to do what Saf does. And I think it is, but it is, I think, super useful to feel like you know all the numbers as well, because it does actually inform the decisions. But I guess it's just like a slightly different approach. That's my take.
Yeah.
But I think what you do is also obviously very helpful to inform the. It just gives you that feeling of like, I know everything is.
No, I think we probably share the same perspective more than we probably realize, because YouTube studio data is intimidating. I think it's like, where do you even get started? What does this even mean? What are all of the different things to account for? But if we took a step back, I still remember after leaving the Ali Abdaal team, I worked for like 6 months as a producer stroke strategist on some of the video ideas and stuff. And we did this deep dive onto the channel, and we just looked at views. We just looked at what were the views for all of the different videos, but then we categorized it based off of the buckets inside of Notion. And we're really trying to identify which topic areas or formats were resonating the most with the audience. And so we didn't really find like a golden goose of like, oh my God, how have we missed this? We need to be making this video like every single day of the week. But what we did find is there were certain formats that just never performed. They were just like, these are really, really bad. We have to stop doing book club videos if you're interested in growing the channel, because 1 in every 20 book club videos take off, and it like skews all the numbers upwards. But actually, on average, they get like, I don't know what the number was. Let's just say 100K views. So in that example, we're still looking at views, and we're still like reverse engineering, but there is a bit of a process to how you approach the research, how you're understanding it, how you're visualizing it. And it doesn't have to be something that's super complex and super detailed.
I want to move on and talk about team. So I'll direct this to Angus. If somebody wants to make a hire, what's the first hire they need to make?
What's the business?
YouTube channel.
YouTube, okay.
Brick and mortar.
Clean it, yeah. Editor, yeah, fundamentally. That was Ali's first hire in terms of like remote hire. It's the area that most people's time gets spent on in the production process. I think it's the thing that really takes the most amount of time for probably everyone. Like even now, like our editing like timeline is like 4 or 5 days per video. It doesn't take 4 or 5 days to film. I mean, occasionally it does with Ali, but like in general it doesn't, and pre-production doesn't take that long. So yeah, definitely editing, outsourcing that as soon as you can. A lot of people have resistance to that. There is a valid argument for learning how to do it first, but beyond that, there's not really any valid arguments for it, I don't think, because you can get a relatively good editor for a relatively affordable price, and you're saving so much time that you could be spending on more important parts, which are ideation, packaging, which are like far more important and far, if it's a personal brand channel at least, like you have the best idea of what your audience wants. And so trying to outsource that before you outsource the editing, which is fundamentally just a technical skill that someone can do. Even if the editing is super, super basic, I think people kind of over index on how complex the edit needs to be. If you're making like documentary videos, et cetera, yeah, of course. But most people aren't doing that, especially like talking head educational content. And so the editing can be relatively basic, and therefore it can be relatively affordable. So yeah, editing first.
In 60 seconds, I want to hear from each of you guys. Where do you find an editor, and then how much do you pay them per video? We can start with Angus.
I'm probably not the best to answer the where do you find them, because we've always used Ali's audience. But from what I've heard from other people, YouTube jobs, Fiverr, people per hour, like all of these sites, as long as you are very specific with the job description, you don't kind of split something out very vague, and you have some sort of like trial task attached to it, as long as it's relatively simple to do, so you're not asking someone to edit a whole video, because I think that's not the way to do things. That's where you'd find them. And then what's the other part of the question?
How much do you pay them?
How much do you pay them?
In the early days.
Again, it depends. I think you can get a decent edit for like a kind of 8 to 15 minute video for like $100 if you want a very basic edit. But that could be $100 to like $400, I think, in the early days. Now, like for Ali's channel, it's anywhere between like 1,000, 2,000.
Saf, I guess, do you have any other additional notes on that question that you want to add?
Yeah, I'd agree. Hiring a video editor is probably the best way to buy back your time, because then you can focus on all of the other areas of high impact. And I think if you looked at the whole production process, video editing takes the most time. The thing I'd add to this, especially when it comes to like the finances side of things, when it comes to hiring a video editor, you can hire someone that has speed, you can hire someone that has quality, or you can hire someone really expensive. Just imagine you have this like triangle of speed, quality, and price, but you can only pick two. Which two are you picking? Is very unlikely you're going to find someone who's very quick and is very high quality, because they probably know their worth and they've been doing it enough time to know the value that they add and that they can take on more work and work with bigger clients. And so naturally, the rates for Ali's videos are certainly some of the highest that I've experienced in the industry, because it's the bedrock of the business. But if you choose to go for a cheaper editor, then you're playing around with quality/reliability or a lower quality edit, which, these are fair enough trade-offs. You don't need to have the most complicated video edit in the world. You just need a video editor that understands narrative, story, payoff, has like the basic chops, and then they get better over time. If there's one more like nugget that I could offer here, you're never going to find a video editor that's like 100% the right video editor from day one. The best you're going to find is probably like 80%, 85%, and then you got to coach them the last 15%. And whenever I work with a new video editor, I always set expectations of the first 8 weeks, we're going to do 8 projects week by week. And I am going to give you so much feedback you're going to be bored. So much feedback, you're going to go into frame, you're going to see 60 comments. You could be like, oh God, here we go again. But that's the only way that you can teach the last 15% to a video editor, because then they internalize taste, they internalize direction, what you like. And crucially, in the feedback, you're explaining why you've made that suggestion to them. And then over time, they get better and better and better. And by week 8, you've bridged that gap. And now you've trained and coached a video editor that's the right editor for your business.
Question here is, why should I hire a video editor when I haven't made any money for my channel so far? Why don't I just do it myself? What do you think, Angus?
How do you value your time?
Let's say I'm a 22-year-old final year university student, or like a 23-year-old consultant.
I mean, if you're a consultant, you have the money to hire a video editor. Yeah, I understand that. I'm kind of being a bit facetious, but like, I understand the concern. And like, if you genuinely don't have any money, then obviously like you do it yourself. But I think the thing that I've seen time and time again with part-time YouTuber Academy students is they overestimate how much it's going to cost. And they underestimate how valuable it will be, even if they had a basic video editor. Even if you had someone just to do the A cut and then you did the rest of it. Or you did the A cut and they did the rest of it. Like, yeah, I just think people massively overestimate how much they will need. And even if it was $100, I think it's still worth doing, because, that's like $400 a month. If you're taking YouTube seriously, you should be able to create videos that pay that back within 6 to 12 months. If you are making 1% improvements every time, and if you are being deliberate about either driving leads to your business or certainly if you're doing it from a business perspective. If you're doing it just for like fame, which we talked about earlier, then, it might not be as prudent from a financial perspective, but I think fundamentally people want to make money off YouTube, and it's an investment that has a return.
Yeah, I also think if you live in a Western country, there's literally no way that your hourly rate is less than what you can hire for video editing abroad, right? Like, there are video editors you can pay literally $5 an hour. And like, that is below the minimum wage in from what my knowledge is, in like most Western countries, right? So like, and if you're listening to this, you're probably in university or you're working like a 9-to-5 job or something. So like, there's almost no reason to not invest in editing unless you think that there's literally no way I'm going to make a return on this. And then also, if you go to like a long enough time horizon, think about it, $400 a month, let's say that's like $5K a year, over 10 years, that's $50,000 in total of a decade of video editing on a channel. If you spend a decade on your YouTube channel and take it seriously, you are going to make at least $50,000 back.
You'd hope so.
Yeah, you hope so. Or like, you did this program,
But I guess it is worth noting that it is Daniel Priest uses this term like a J-curve business. Like, YouTube is a J-curve. Like, you invest time, energy, and money. If you have no business already, like if you're just like, I want to make money off YouTube, you invest time, energy, money before you make any money back. And that's a trade-off. Like, it's not, if you're like, I want to build a business from scratch, starting a YouTube channel is not a great place to start. Like, you go out and start a different kind of business. And so that YouTube just comes with that trade-off. And I don't think it is a particularly good mentality to think like, I'm only going to reinvest what I make from the channel into the channel, rather than like some of your salary if you have a 9-to-5 job, and to be like, no, I want this thing to work. I want to speed up the journey. I'm going to like spend a little bit less in my personal life, and I'm going to put some of that money towards a video editor. My take on video editing is that it's the first hire, and the way that you the best way to start paying for it is to, instead of spend 8 hours working on a video, editing a video, is to try and spend 8 hours selling your time to work with your audience. So you can even sell your time for like, $25 an hour, $50 an hour to the people in your audience to help them with a specific thing. And instead of spending the time editing, you're actually making money, which you can pay for the editing with. And you're also learning about your audience, getting content ideas, getting proof, building your business, all this kind of stuff. So that's definitely a better way to approach it. And the first place to start looking that I always recommend to people is referrals. So before you do anything, go anywhere. Just like think about all the people you know, like who content creators, like random people, just like anyone in your phone book, like ask if they know any video editors, because referrals are always so much better because they're like pre-qualified. Then if you have an audience, use your audience. Then if you don't have an audience, then go to ytjobs.co, Fiverr, Upwork and stuff like that. And always do a paid trial task and then give them tons of feedback in the first few like weeks and months of working with them. Yeah.
I think the speed is an interesting point actually, because I've not thought about it like this before, but it's probably one of the only things you can do when people talk about, I want to grow faster and stuff. Actually, just paying for an editor is probably one of the best ways you can grow faster, because you can make more content and just get more stuff out there and have more shots on goal. And I think if you don't hire an editor, it's fine, but it just like the timeline just extends. Like you're just going to grow slower. It's going to be longer. Publishing a video a week might not be possible to do every 2 weeks. Therefore, it's just going to take you double the amount of time to get to where you would have done if you were doing a video a week. Obviously, all of these numbers are fairly like arbitrary and they're not all exactly true. But from my perspective, it's one of you can't kind of hack the algorithm on YouTube. You can't hack the packaging process really, but you can pay to speed up your learning.
It is hard though. The reality is tricky. Like, 'cause I work with a lot of people in this situation where they're like paying for video editors, and it is like quite a big part of their like outgoings and their costs. And they're like, I don't really make that much money from my YouTube channel for like 6 months now, and I like spending this money on an editor every month. It's like, is it worth it? Like, it is like I think the actual reality of like spending the money every month and not making that much back and not knowing if you're going to get the reward that you're looking for is just quite tricky. Like, it is just like, is this going to pay off? Is this all this effort and work and money that I'm spending going to come back to me? And that's like part of the challenge. Or you do what Ali did, which is like you make videos and edit them yourself until your business is making enough money to pay for an editor, and then you outsource it, which is just hard because you spend a lot of time video editing. I think the model of not doing any video editing at all and just selling your time to work with your audience, and like $25 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour, doing that to generate income you can do that from day one. Like, work with your audience and just reinvest that straight into editing.
So video editor, definite yes in terms of hiring. Angus, what's a second and third hire someone should look at making?
I think that depends on what the business is and what you're doing. Because like a business like you, it probably doesn't make any more sense to hire someone on the content side. It might make more sense to hire like a CSM or whatever to help service your clients, or a sales closer. For a purely media content team, probably kind of a generalist YouTube producer who can help with research, writing, and manage the channel, basically. And so therefore the talent is only there for filming and also ideation, because that's kind of probably what they are uniquely positioned to do. And don't have to deal with uploading, looking at comments, looking at the analytics, doing all that crap. Like, that's probably the second thing I would outsource if it was purely media. But yeah, at that point, I think it really does depend on the nature of the company, I would say.
I would agree. I'd just call it the YouTube strategist.
Yeah.
They're the person that comes in, they figure out which ideas we're going to make, why we're going to make it. They help you with the scripting. They help schedule time in your diary. They make sure that the videos are slowly leveling up over time. They're looking at the comments. They're like, Ali used to have the model, which was like, get started,
get going, get good,
get going, get good, get smart. And I think once you've got going, you've got your first video editor and you've got some reps under your belt, then you can start to get good by like ramping up the team, and then you can start to get really smart with some of these more creative strategies, which the likes of Alex Hormozy and stuff do. But I think a lot of beginners try and model off of the people who are getting really smart, instead of going through the arc of like getting going, then getting good, and then playing around with those things on the other side. So.
Yeah, my take is it depends on the kind of the level of YouTuber / entrepreneur that we're talking about, but assuming it's the kind of journey that you took, which is like making videos, then trying to grow the channel and build a business off the back of it, I think the order is video editor, then thumbnail designer, because there's a huge ROI there, especially if you're not very good at making thumbnails. It's like, makes a massive difference to the channel. And I don't think you need a producer before you have your videos edited and your thumbnails done. And then you can also get your video editor to your thumbnails, which often like it works well for a lot of people. Then I think like someone to help with the scripting and the preparation, not like a full producer, just someone to like help you, for example, write some videos about like software engineering space, like a script writer. You can still kind of think about the video ideas and stuff, but then just someone to help with the research, and then potentially someone to channel manage, produce would be my take.
Final question. Tintin, why did you leave the Ali Abdaal team?
Yeah, we always get asked this.
Yeah, man.
What the hell? I left because a few reasons. I think I absolutely loved it. It was so fun, and spent a lot of time with these guys and just like the team. It was the best job. Like it really was the best job. At least for me at that time, it was just like exactly what I wanted to be doing. But then I guess a few things changed. I spent like 2 years in my role as a YouTube producer, and I felt like the learnings there started to like plateau, and I started to be doing quite a lot of the same stuff. So my job started to be like a little bit less like interesting day to day, a little bit less novel, and there wasn't an obvious other role in the business that I wanted to be doing, or that I thought would like really excite me. And the thing that was really exciting me was trying to build my own thing as well. So there was like the growth in the role, and then also Ali moved to Hong Kong. And that just like changed the nature of the business a bit, where we went remote, and things were like, there was like less reason to stay and be in Ali's kind of ecosystem in London, which was super fun, like meeting loads of cool people. And the team like also kind of went remote. And so there was no real hub in London anymore. And yeah, it just kind of felt like I was so excited and up for doing my own thing. I got trained up in the Ali Abdaal universe. And that was like, yeah, I was just more excited to do that.
Saf?
Yeah, my motivation is very similar because my 2 years overlapped with Tintin's, and we both left at fairly similar times.
That was a quick thing. That was actually a big reason why I ended up leaving this, because Saf left. partly because we were very good friends, but more so it was quite inconceivable for a long time. The dream had been like end goal. So the job had been like the end goal. And I think we both felt that way for a while. It was like, this is sick. This is all we need. And then like Saf eventually like started. I guess your side hustle was going well enough that it became like something you wanted to do.
Yeah. And
when Saf made the leap, then I was like, oh, like man, maybe I could do that too, all that kind of thing. And then yeah, but you go.
Yeah. My motivation for taking the leap was I have always been very entrepreneurial, and I've always wanted to start my own business. I had this very arbitrary date in mind that before I turned 30, I wanted to start a business, because I don't know why, but ever since when I was growing up, I thought 30 is when you get old, you settle down, you have all the responsibilities. Obviously, now that I'm approaching 30, I know that's not the case. But
thanks, man.
Yeah. Have you got a business?
For some reason, I was really feeling the pressure. And I think I had always been in the trap of like learning to do business and being surrounded by entrepreneurs. And working with Ali for 2 years had given me a lot of the confidence, the insight, the knowledge to be able to monetize. But it was never like that clean. Like I made the decision to leave, taking a leap of faith on basically doing some freelance work for one of Ali's friends, Ryan Dice, who I was introduced to. And my biggest concern was getting a second client so I could cover rent. And like obviously I'd had savings from the role, and it was never that bad. But I think the biggest shock from leaving a job and going into entrepreneurship is you're not being paid time for money. You're now being paid time for outcomes and the clients that you bring on. So yeah, the motivation for me was quite simple. Is I've always wanted to start a business. I've always been very entrepreneurial. I'm very passionate about the space. I've been in love with YouTube since I was about 12 years old. And so the opportunity to combine all of these random interests into my dream business was like a dream come true. But I think the funny thing, and I didn't realize this at the time, but in hindsight, something I recognized was I had never stayed in a job for longer than 2 years. every 2 years, I always switch jobs. For some reason, I got itchy feet and moved on. And so I find that quite funny. That is literally like, as I was approaching the 2-year mark, I decided to leave as well.
From this, I feel like, working with Ali Abdaal is kind of like university a little bit. Like you come in, you learn a ton, like you make a bunch of friends, like you wear multiple hats, and then a lot of people end up doing their own thing. Angus, you've been with Ali for many, many years now. I guess, why do you continue to stay with the team? And
I'm not postgrad. Yeah, he sticks around.
you're doing your PhD.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking as a 30-year-old who hasn't wanted to grow his own business. I mean, part of it is like these two guys are very much more entrepreneurially minded than I am. I'm just more of like someone who wants to be behind the scenes, be an operator, help. I guess it's going to sound far more like, righteous than it should be, but like help others grow their own stuff. Like that's just, the number of people who've told me to start posting on LinkedIn or shit over the last like 5 years is a lot. But like, it's just never kind of appealed to me as something that I want to do. And I just like, so I like being behind the scenes for one. But two, just continually learning. Like been talking to you over the last 2 weeks about, we just hired 2 sales people. Like that's a completely new field for us, high ticket sales and managing closers and all that stuff. So yeah, just continually learning and feeling like the brand, you mentioned pivoting earlier, but I think the sort of the flip side of the negative aspect of pivoting is like, there's always something new. I think if we had like continuously just grown my YouTube channel and done repeat cohorts of P2A for the last like 5 years, I think it probably would have got a bit stale by now. And so there's that aspect as well. There's always something kind of different coming on. We've got the software growing now. Like there's just always something else on the horizon, which makes it kind of exciting. So yeah, that's would be my answer.
Nice. If people want to connect with you guys further, where should they go? Starting with Tintin?
My YouTube channel, Tintin Smith. And that's the best place to start.
For me, LinkedIn is where I'm usually building in public and sharing posts. So linkedin.com/
/user/ for me, probably email. Which is Angus at aliabdaal.com.
Nice. We'll have everything in the description. And if you guys want to do the collab thing as well, we'll be down to do that.
Yeah. My YouTube channel.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll just do the LBA channel.
Yeah, happy to.
Is this going on the lift off?
Yeah. Cool. No, it's on the software engineering.
Sick, yeah.
Nice. Well, honestly, this is had a great time, guys. So thanks for coming and doing this. Super fun.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
That's today's episode of Liftoff. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you want early access to every single one of these episodes, head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other podcast app of choice and follow Liftoff with Aman Manazir. That's right, you can listen to every episode early on the podcast apps before they get released on YouTube. So make sure to go over and follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, turn on notifications, or check the links in the description. And finally, always remember, the night is darkest before the dawn. I'll see you in the next one.